Alright, gather round, because today we are tackling a creature that seems to have outsourced its basic design to a committee of very confused animals. Meet the Springhare. Yes, it looks like a miniature kangaroo. Yes, it has the ears of a particularly worried rabbit. And yes, it hops like it's constantly late for something important. But here's the kicker, the truly, wonderfully absurd part. It's none of those things. It's actually a rodent. Just let that sink in. A giant, hopping, kangaroo impersonating rodent. They're officially known as pedets, which, rather fittingly, comes from the Greek word meaning leaper or jumper. Because, they leap. A lot. It's almost as if someone actually paid attention when naming these things, which, frankly, is a rarity in the animal kingdom. But then, as is tradition, they had to throw in a curveball. One of the two species is called Pedets surdester, and surdester translates to deaf-like. For an animal famous for its huge, radar dish ears, that's just peak irony, isn't it? Now, about those legs. These aren't just for show, folks. A springhare's hind legs are absurdly powerful, allowing them to clear distances that would make an Olympic long jumper weep. We are talking up to 9 meters in a single bound. And if they really need to impress you, they can go vertical, reaching heights of 2 meters. That's taller than most humans. Imagine trying to explain that to your pet hamster. Look, I can jump over you, twice. It's the kind of flex only evolution could dream up. You won't find these guys lounging around in the midday sun. Springhares are strictly nocturnal, which explains the enormous ears and those rather unsettling, large eyes. They're basically built for a rave in the dark, constantly on high alert for anything that might be trying to eat them. Their incredible hearing means they can detect predators from a considerable distance, giving them ample time to deploy their signature "oh dear, I'm late for something" escape hop. It's a full-time job being this jumpy, apparently. When they're not defying gravity, springhares are surprisingly adept architects. They dig extensive, complex burrow systems, which, let's be honest, is a lot of effort for an animal that just wants to eat some roots and avoid being eaten. These subterranean networks can be so vast and intricate, they've occasionally been known to destabilize roads. Yes, these cute hopping rodents are a literal public works hazard. Who knew road maintenance budgets were threatened by furry, four-legged dynamite? So, where can you witness this architectural rodent kangaroo hybrid in action? They're found exclusively in southern and East Africa. Specifically, they prefer sandy soils and open grasslands, where their impressive digging skills and even more impressive hopping skills can be fully utilized. Imagine rolling plains, punctuated by sudden, inexplicable explosions of furry, airborne rodents. It's an acquired taste, perhaps, but certainly never dull. Their preferred habitat is basically a giant, natural trampoline park. Being a nocturnal, burrowing rodent means your culinary tastes lean a certain way. Springhares are primarily herbivores, with a penchant for grasses, roots, and tubers. Basically, anything that doesn't try to run away. But, like any self-respecting opportunist, they're not above snacking on an insect or two if the mood strikes. They're basically the foragers of the African plains, tirelessly digging for subterranean snacks. It's a surprisingly active diet for something that spends half its life underground. Despite their rather dramatic appearance, springhares are mostly solitary creatures. Think of them as the introverts of the savannah, perfectly content with their own company and their own meticulously dug burrow. However, occasionally, you might spot them in small, loosely formed groups. It's not exactly a mosh pit, more like a polite gathering of individuals who happen to be in the same general vicinity. They're social, but only when absolutely necessary, and probably with a strict no-touching policy. Did you know there are 2 species of springhare? It's not exactly a thrilling revelation, as they look remarkably similar. We have the common springhare, Pedets capensis, predominantly found in southern Africa. And then there's the East African springhare, Pedets surdester, found, rather predictably, in East Africa. The differences are subtle, mostly scientific nuances that only a truly dedicated springhare enthusiast would appreciate. For the rest of us, it's basically spot the slightly different hopping rodent, a game that's harder than it sounds. For a rodent, springhares have a surprisingly respectable lifespan. In the wild, They can stick around for up to a decade, which is practically ancient in rodent years. And if they're lucky enough to end up in captivity, living the pampered life with regular meals and no eagles, they can push that to a rather impressive 14 years. That's more than enough time to master their jumping skills and probably develop a complex inner monologue about the absurdity of their own existence. Not bad for something that looks like a furry exclamation point. Reproduction for Springhares is a rather understated affair. Females typically have 2 to 3 litters per year, but here's the kicker: usually only one young per litter. It's not exactly a population explosion. And to make things even more strategically slow, they exhibit delayed implantation. This means if conditions are, shall we say, less than ideal, the embryo can just hit the pause button. It's like nature's way of saying, let's wait until the grocery store is fully stocked before we add another mouth to feed. Smart, but not exactly prolific. With all that energetic hopping and those impressive ears, you'd think Springhares would be untouchable. Alas, the food chain has other plans. They're a favorite snack for a variety of predators, from majestic eagles soaring above to sly jackals and fierce caracals on the ground. And, of course, humans. Because apparently, we just can't resist a good hunt. It's a tough world out there when you're essentially a furry, bouncing snack bar for everyone with a taste for rodent. No wonder they're always jumping. Now, for the slightly more controversial side of Springhare life. While undeniably charming in their own peculiar way, they are often considered agricultural pests. Their love for roots and tubers means they're not shy about raiding farmers' fields, causing damage to crops. So, for every O at their hopping prowess, there's a farmer somewhere grumbling about their livelihood being eaten by a creature that looks like a kangaroo decided to shrink and borrow some rabbit ears. It's a complicated relationship, to say the least. Here's where it gets interesting: the Springhares' conservation status. The IUCN lists them as least concern, which, at first glance, sounds great. They're basically chilling, right? Well, not quite. While widespread, their populations are actually in decline in many areas. Habitat loss, hunting pressure, farming encroachment, and drought are taking their toll. It's a classic case of widespread but vulnerable, where the big picture masks a slow, steady erosion of numbers. Least concern sometimes just means we haven't panicked yet. So, why should we care about this bizarre, hopping, rodent-kangaroo-rabbit hybrid? Beyond their sheer entertainment value, Springhares play a crucial role in their ecosystem. Their extensive burrowing helps aerate the soil and create microhabitats for other species. They're nature's little tillers, turning over earth and distributing seeds. They're not just pests, they're ecosystem engineers, quietly shaping the landscape while trying to avoid being someone's dinner. A pretty significant job for something that still looks like it's trying to figure out what it is. And there you have it, the Springhare. A creature that defies easy categorization, preferring instead to exist in a delightful state of zoological confusion. It's a rodent that hops like a kangaroo, has ears like a rabbit, and digs like a badger. It's a testament to evolution's sense of humor, proof that sometimes, the best way to survive is to be so utterly unique, so delightfully absurd, that predators pause for a moment of bewildered admiration before remembering they're hungry. The Springhare, truly one of a kind, and quite possibly, completely off its rocker.